Welcome to this vegetarian presentation. Today I'm going to present a holiday dish, and it's going to be a Thanksgiving Day tofu. But before I get started, I want to talk a little bit about vegetarian cuisine. First of all, it is a cuisine. Most people look at it as a special diet. And while it does cover special diets like heart disease, low cholesterol, lactose-free, it really is an ancient cuisine. And second is that you don't really have to be vegetarian to enjoy vegetarian cuisine. About 35% of Americans today are eating vegetarian cuisine as part of a healthy diet. And what makes a meat dish really taste good? It's the vegetables, the fruits, the herbs, the spices, the wine, the oils. It's not the meat. So what we're doing here is taking those same components and using them with a vegetarian protein. And so with that, we're going to get started. I'm going to start by making some caramelized onions and kale. And this is fresh organic kale that's been washed. I'm going to cut the stems off it and slice those up first and get those cooking in the beginning because they take a little bit longer to cook. So here we have this. And again, this is the core part of the kale. It's a little tougher, takes a little bit more effort to eat. And I'm going to get that going here with the caramelized onions, which are already pre-caramelized. I'm going to put the stems in there and let those start cooking. And I don't use a lot of water. I'll use just a little bit at the end to throw a little steam in them so we don't lose a lot of the nutrition. Now I'm going to just finish cutting this up in some rough chunks so that they're bite-sized. And next I'll take just a little bit of water. And put it in here just to create a little steam. And I'm going to drop this on top of it. And as it's steaming, I'm just going to turn it. So you want to coat it with a little of the oil. And again, these onions are caramelized real slow with just a little salt and a little oil. Again, the cooking time on vegetables is very slow. One of the things vegetarians don't really like done well is their vegetables. When they're eating vegetables, there's nothing more unappealing than an overcooked vegetable. And the Chinese have the best way of doing that they cook the vegetable and it's cooked before it even knows it's cooked. Okay, you can see how quick that is. Now we'll just put the lid on that and let it cook in its own heat just for a few minutes. And while that's working, make sure the fire's off so we don't overcook it. Next we'll get into plating the dish. One of the things I learned in the kitchen also is clean as you go. I like to leave the kitchen the way I walked into it. Next is the fun part, is the plating. Now, people eat with their eyes. 60% of accepting cuisine is the presentation when it's coming to the table in the restaurant, and 60% of it flips to 60% is the taste. If the food doesn't taste good, no matter how good it looks, it's kind of a lost proposition. So what we're going to do here is we're making a seasonal dish. This is what I call my version of tofurkey. It's the Thanksgiving Day tofu. Now I got a roasted potato here. I'm going to take a chunk of that. I'm going to lay that right on the plate here in the center. And then I'm going to slice a piece of the Thanksgiving Day tofu. Now this is tofu that's been pulverized with flavors in it and a little starch, and then it was wrapped around a roasted chestnut dressing. And you can buy this in the form of a tofurkey. This here costs maybe $1.50 a pound to make because you're just using tofu and chestnuts and a dressing. Now what I'm going to, and then you take it and steam it. And then after you steam it, you're ready to serve. Now what I'm going to do is put one piece of that on here. And then I'm going to take my next dish, which is seitan a la Normandie. Now, seitan is a protein. That's something to realize about protein. It's like, where do we get our protein? It's in a lot of things. This protein comes from wheat. It's a wheat-based protein that was developed by the Buddhist monks about 500 years ago. What I did is I roasted that with a little apple juice and tamari. You can use French Calvados, the apple brandy, which it normally calls for, or you can use apple juice. And then I put apples on it, sauteed apples and onions and pecans. Now what I'm going to do is take a piece of that and lay that right here. Put some of the apples on it. Okay, now we got that. And then we'll put a few roasted chestnuts around here, just on the front part. And we'll take a little bit of our cranberry. This was made with cranberry and candied ginger. It's just a real simple, cook it in the liquid and orange juice and a little candied ginger and a little sugar. And next we'll get our kale, which is ready. Grab my work here, and look how bright and green that is. This is delicious. Got a light coat of oil. Take a little bit of that and drop it down there. See, when plating a dish, again, we eat with our eyes. Notice the height on this. I got natural height. I put that potato there to kind of build it up, and then I put my vegetables around it and build everything up around it, because that helps hold the heat when you're putting a dish together. When serving a dish, it's when everything is kind of compact, it holds the ambient heat. Now we just put a little bit of sauce on this here and right down there, right along the side of it. See, you don't want to cover the dish itself. It's too beautiful. Why would you want to put any sauce on that? And then you have it. Here's a beautiful Thanksgiving Day tofu. And one of the things people ask when you talk about vegetarian cuisine is like, where do you get your protein? Well, we only need to eat 5.5 ounces of meat a day, total meat. So when you eat a half pounder, you've got more protein than you need altogether. When working with vegetarian proteins, all you need is 2.5 ounces of protein. That can be seeds or nuts or beans of that sort. So the protein is concentrated in the vegetarian foods. That's why you only need half as much. But 2.5 ounces, that's 80 grams. That's less than a quarter pounder. And then you look at the seitan and as a protein, people don't realize that there's protein in the bun that the burger's on. So protein is not really an issue with vegetarian cuisine. It's more of a perception of we need more protein when in fact we really don't. I am 60 years old and I've been eating this way for 30 years. And the protein needs for people of my age right now are about 2.5 ounces of protein. So I'm totally comfortable, and here we've got way more than 2.5 ounces of protein. We've got it in the seitan, we've got it in the chestnuts, it's in the tofu. So when people ask where do you get your protein, here is where you get it. And the other thing is that right now the American Dietetic Association has come forward with a new position paper as of September 30th of this year. And they basically said that a vegetarian diet is a healthy diet if properly prepared as a balanced diet. Well, guess what? We need to eat that way balanced whether we're eating meat or vegetarian. So balance is the essential component here. But if we're eating a balanced diet, vegetarian diet, they said it can help alleviate diabetes, obesity, heart disease. And the American Dietetic Association came in, the American Heart Association came in and said basically 49% of Americans right now are suffering from some form of high cholesterol. That roughly about 1/3 of Americans have a heart condition, are in serious health with regard to their hearts. And so that's roughly about 80 million Americans. And they're basically saying that a vegetarian diet also is a healthy diet. This is a low cholesterol. This is a vegan food right here. There's no cholesterol, no dairy, no eggs or anything in this cuisine. So when you're wondering where you get your protein, here it is. Here's the dessert. This is a Swiss pecan torte, and made with pecans and a rice syrup. It does not have any sugar in it at all. It's made with a whole wheat crust and served with a pumpkin custard. And it has a little raspberry coulis with lemon zest and pistachio nut confit. And as Julia would say, bon appetit.